Thanks for staying with Facing the Nation. Of course, those of you who are now joining, you missed the conversation with myself and Miss Linda Gomes-Halley. And one of the things we didn't mention is that she's also a sitting councillor. So she's experienced. It's just that her face is not going to be on the ballot paper. And just to remind you, that conversation would have been about Constituency 2. And you will be seeing Ms. Shondell Hope's face on the ballot paper. It's just to guide you and to remind you how we want you to vote and how we will be grateful for you to vote. We're going to try to get Ms. Shondell Hope on our program before local government elections. Now we're going to, I feel very special at this moment because I'm sitting here with two gentlemen, two handsome gentlemen, mind you. But I feel special because I'm the only female sitting here. One of them is no stranger to this program. He's like what we call him, you know, those distant cousins. He's a distant relative of the program. But even before I introduce him, I first want to introduce to for the first time to this program, and this is my pleasure to have him, Mr. Ubraj Narine, who is from Constituency 1, and he is the first past the post representative. Welcome to Facing the Nation.
Thank you, Malika.
All right, so great to have you. And I'm excited to hear so much from you about your plans, your campaigning, and everything that surrounds it. And welcoming back to Facing the Nation, that distant cousin that I told you about, no stranger. He is not only a councillor, but he is also the deputy mayor. And I like to remind people the youngest deputy mayor that Georgetown has ever seen. I think it's the entire, but in terms of all the other towns in the country, he is the youngest deputy mayor we've ever had, Mr. Akeem Peter, who is the first past the post representative of Constituency 5. Well, APNU, that is,
yes,
of Constituency 5. Welcome back to Facing the Nation, sir.
Thank you for having me again, Malika.
And even before I talk with you, Brad, how have you been? How have you been faring? I mean, it's getting closer to November 12th, the local government election. What's happening?
Well, we're still working. The work continues, even though we're in election campaigning season. You know, the municipality still has its function and its responsibility towards the citizens of Georgetown. So we're actually still functioning as councillors and in my capacity of deputy mayor. And I know her worship the mayor is still working every day. So with that, we still have to campaign for the APNU moving into the local government elections come November 12th.
I'm happy that you talked about the fact that you're in campaign mode. You, in your case, you're still a deputy mayor, you're still a councillor.
Yes.
Are you seeing any sort of conflict in terms of the schedule and balancing things and fixing things?
Well, for now, the reality is that we have to ensure that our functions, and we still not functions, but we still serve the people adequately, and we have to make time for them in that regard. You know, being in the campaigning season, we want to dedicate so much of time towards the campaign because of our re-election, but we must be reminded that we're still sitting councillors there, and we also have to assist persons when they come. So my phone keeps ringing every day, even in the fields while campaigning. You know, persons reach out to you, and it's beneficial because now you're in the capacity to help persons as you campaign, and not tell them, you know, when I get into office, this is what I'll do. But you're on the ground now, so you have an opportunity to address those concerns that the residents may have.
And I'm happy that you talked about your phone ringing. That brings me, viewers. We have not done this in a very long time because we stay away from our phones these days because there's so much information to get to you. But we're going to open up the phone lines a little later on. I'm going to try to have both gentlemen on for the rest of the program. We're going to open up the phone lines, but you know, the old rules regarding the phone, they still stand. We want you to turn the volumes of your television sets down when you're coming through. And we are asking you to be respectful and to be graceful. Any hint of disrespect, and you know with me, it's even a tone of disrespect, and I will be forced to disconnect you. So if you're going to call in, be respectful. Yes, you can ask hard questions. You can be forceful. But remember that you have to be respectful not only of the guests, but you have to be respectful of the television station because we have strict laws and rules now regarding what can be said on air and what cannot be said. So we want you to stay away from the indecency and be respectful when we do open up the phone lines. And I see they're ringing already, but we're going to talk to you, Braj, before we take some of the questions from the viewing public. You, Braj, you're, in terms of politics, you're a new face to so many people.
That's right.
I want you to talk about your constituency first, though, before we talk about anything. Your constituency 1. Let's talk about the communities that are in constituency 1.
The communities that in constituency 1 Kingston East West, Cominsburg North and South, Alberton, Queenstown, Nompel Park, and Thomas Lands. And it's a quite huge area
Yeah.
to manage.
Yes.
But the present councillor, who is Mr. Smith, he had done a tremendous job for the past 2 years, since after 23 years we received local government election. And being the candidate for that constituency, I will continue the good work in those communities.
All right. You've been doing house-to-house activities.
Yes.
What are some of the, and even before you talk about, because you did say the sitting council has done a lot of work, even before you talk about what the sitting council has done so far, what are some of the things that the concerns and the complaints that the residents are having that, you know, they would want Ubraj and his team and the APNU, of course, to address?
Well, so far doing house-to-house registration, listen to the people voice is one of the most important thing. Everybody get different opinion, and I believe that you can't deliver everything at one time. Everything comes with time and patience. Some will complain about the drainage, some will complain about roads, street lights, and all these things you will face at times. But most importantly, what we have faced with it is drainage situation. The roads and the lights, street light, is no issue right now, but the drainage. And that is one thing I plan to enforce when I get in office on the 12th of November.
Perfect. I love that confidence. Mr. Deputy Mayor, I want to pull you back into the conversation now. Ubraj talked about trains and lights and so on, and that is very important. I know not only to you, but it is a concern sometimes to the viewing public, the voting public, that all right, a community is about more than parapets. It's more than drains. It's more than lighting. And I know that's a big issue for you. Let's bring you in here now and talk about some of the other things. I know it's 2 different constituencies,
Yes.
but some of the problems indeed, the problems and the solutions sometimes overlap. So let's talk about the other things that can be addressed, not only in Ubraj's constituency, but in yours, and other social issues that APNU has managed, of
Yes.
course, using the councillors and potential councillors as the vehicle.
Yes, Malika. You know, it goes back to the fundamental responsibility of the office of a councillor. I know Ubraj is a candidate for the local government elections in constituency 1, and he will be a councillor come November 12th. After November 12th, he'll be elected. You know, the responsibility of a councillor is much more than your drains, your parapets, your street lights. You know, fundamentally, we're responsible for the policy making aspects of the local government, and to understand that our function surpasses that of a community leader, who may be a hands-on person within the individual communities that we have overarching responsibility for. When I say policy making, I mean when you sit around the horseshoe table at City Hall, you're a part of committees, and those committees are responsible for making broad policies. For example, markets, vending within the city of Georgetown. That's a policy that comes under the municipality. When it comes to certain aspects of public security, we also play a part there. When it comes to health and how we look at the health issue for the city of Georgetown, how can we influence persons and give guidelines to persons to function? Transportation within the city of Georgetown is a major issue that we've faced since being elected into office after 23 years. So, you know, for us, it's much more than you providing a road or providing street lights or providing drains, but it's for you providing the laws and the bylaws to guard and to govern the city in the years to come. So I know councillors are also lawmakers.
Yes.
So
yes.
that's the part that we have to focus on a lot moving forward. You know, put the systems and place the laws in place So as persons can function more effectively and know exactly what their responsibilities are.
Okay. All right. Viewers, the phone lines are now open, but of course we're going to keep having our conversation. So we're going to open up the phone lines. Don't forget the rules. Turn the volumes of your television sets down and be respectful. Mr. Deputy Mayor, as a reminder, you've said it many times on this program, but just so that people wouldn't forget, Constituency 5, the communities in Constituency 5.
Yes, the communities we have North Sophia, B Field, A Field, Sophia, Farmers Field, Plum Park, that's on the south of the constituency. Then we have Leandal, we have Gaisuka Gardens, a part of Bel Air Village, and also the tannery area within North Sophia too.
Okay, all right.
And Leandal.
Yes. Ubraj, I'm going to ask you just to tell the viewers what to expect on election day in terms of what they will be seeing on the ballot paper and where they can find your face.
Okay, on the ballot paper, at the upper half, you vote for the party APNU with the palm. And the lower part, there will be the palm also, APNU with my photo next to it. So I'm asking in my constituency to place a X, both respected APNU.
All right, great. Both of you, have you been getting challenges from your opponents? How difficult is it dealing with those? I shouldn't have asked if you've been getting challenges. You will be getting challenges, but how difficult is? And I'd like to begin with you here, Ubraj, because again, you're still a new face.
Yes, there's challenges, but nothing comes good without challenges. And bear in mind, when we look at our government today, 3 years bringing back local authorities, and look at 23 years, look at the city today. So we got a big plan ahead for this city, and this is opportunity that the residents of Georgetown should give this government to do, to bring back a green city.
Right.
So the challenges are there, but nothing come good without challenges. So I am there for the challenge.
Okay, great. Challenges fuel some of us. Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Yes, the challenges are there from the opponents, from my opponents within Constituency 5. But I've spoken to most of the challengers, so to say. I don't call them opposition personnel, but the challengers who are vying for the position of councillor. And in one instance, we had a lengthy conversation with the independent candidate, and I was explaining to him the responsibilities that come under the office of a councillor, because it's an office. And he was amazed because he himself did not understand what the system calls for as a community leader, and the dedication also and the sacrifice. So when I finished talking to him, he said, you know what, if I didn't run it, I would have voted for you, man. But the reality is, this is what local democracy is all about.
That's what we asked for.
It means that everyone or anyone within the community, once you have that ability and that longingness to serve your people, you can come up and you can be a part of local democracy. And I think that is what His Excellency, when he reinstituted local government election, had in his mind, that persons can come up and represent their communities from across the spectrum, no matter where you are. You can come and be a part of the process.
And you don't have to be in a major political party to do
it. But the reality is, the best team to be on is the APNU.
Yes, the APNU.
So, hence we are part of that local process to win those elections, not only for ourselves and for the communities, but also for the APNU party, the coalition. When I say coalition, I mean the group of parties
within. Yes, I like to stress that, and I'm happy you mentioned that. But viewers, don't forget, I noticed a call was coming in, and the person got a little impatient. But the phone lines are indeed open. Mr. Deputy Mayor, I have 2 questions for you in terms of the fact that we want people to vote APNU. As a young politician, and both of you, and you did say that this is what democracy is about. Did you feel in any way slighted in terms of representing young people, and in your case, young men? Did you feel in any way slighted that the AFC chose to go it alone? Of course, as a government, viewers, reminding you we're a partnership government, but local government election, we're APNU, separate from AFC. Did any one of you feel slighted or disappointed that the AFC chose to go it alone for local government elections?
I don't think it's a matter of disappointment. What I do believe is that the AFC thought it upon themselves that they can independently serve the people as an individual political entity. And personally, I respect them for the choice that they have made. It is up to us to show that there's power in unity, because the APNU is still a compilation of 5 political parties, and that is from across the divide. The AFC is still a part of the government, and we still respect them as a coalition. When you're married, you become one.
Yes, even when you have
even when you have your little disagreements. So I would say, if you look at it as a marriage, they've moved out temporarily.
Yes, they'll be
Right?
back. Or we can put it this way: one is sleeping in the bedroom, and the other one is on the couch.
So the husband has told, or the wife has told the husband, the couch is yours.
Yes.
So we are separated temporarily for now. But what I do believe is that at the end of the day, this is about community service, and I do hope and also stand by the fact that the AFC also has that understanding that this is not about me against you, but rather how best can we develop these constituencies that we're contesting in. And like I always say, Malika, the true testimony of leadership is after the elections. And when we win, if we will still see these faces who came up to serve, working and willing to work with us to benefit and to build those communities.
Okay, Ubraj, your sentiments on it.
I feel that is a democracy of what our leader put forward, and he had wanted that for a very long time. And AFC has chosen that to go at the local polls to serve their communities as a local level. But I will agree with my brother, Deputy Mayor, that is about local democracy, is all about democracy. And I feel that is one thing our leader and the APNU, this government, is putting forward to the people of Guyana what is really democracy. And that is what we want. We want to show the public what is democracy. And look, we are in government together, but the AFC, they is campaigning for local government separately, but we're still united. So I think it's all about democracy.
Okay, great. Let's come back to your constituency for a bit, because and I really want people to understand who are their representatives now, who are going to be their representatives once when APNU wins. You're the person, your face is going to be on the ballot. Let's talk about the other persons in the constituency in terms of those proportional representative candidates.
Well, we have the present councillor, Mr. Philip Smith.
Okay.
He had done a tremendous job in Constituency 1. And the next is Mala Pandit, a community worker. So both of them are working.
Okay.
And that is what we want. And that is what our party, our government is all about. Working together to build a better nation. And three of us are working together, house to house registration, listen to the voice of the people, the complaints. Some place you go, you didn't have any complaint at all.
Oh, that's a
So
good thing.
I think we are getting there. Good response from Constituency 1.
All right. Akeem, Madam, Mr. Oh my, all these things I'm calling him. I think it's because somewhere in here I'm trying to punish him. But Mr. Deputy Mayor, let's talk about your team. The team in your constituency.
Under the banner of the APNU, we have 2 additional PR candidates. Their names are Mr. Clayton Hines and Mr. Brian Sobers. They are both candidates under the banner of the APNU.
Okay, all right, great. We'll go to the phone lines. Caller, welcome to Facing the Nation. Caller, are you there? Caller, good day. All right, I think we lost that one, but moving along. We keep stressing it, and I think almost every program you go on, people say this: you are the youngest. You've been the youngest deputy mayor that our city has ever seen. Has that in any way changed you, the way you think, the things that you do. And I would think that in a case like this, you would get some, you will find the elders around you trying to school you all the time. Well, you're young, this is it. How have you fared with that in there? Because you've had some experience now. You've had some time to soak up the position. How have you dealt with that?
The key to that is that I've found is to be humble.
Okay.
And to always have the ability to listen, especially to the elders that sit around you. Doesn't necessarily mean alone on the council, but I've had a lot of political.
Caller, hold for us, please.
I've had a lot of political.
Caller, hold for us, please.
Yes, I've had a lot of political mothers and fathers along the way since going into the mayor and city council. So I think it's your ability to listen as a young person, and also your ability to learn. You may not agree with everything, but you don't have to disagree with everything either.
Okay, well, I'm sure they're proud parents. Caller, are you there? Caller? All right, I think the caller lost some patience with us. Caller, good day to you.
Good day, friend. I would just like to complain about. Hello?
Yes, we're hearing you. Go ahead.
Good day. I would just like to complain about the roads in Sophia. Which treats them a very bad, friend.
Okay. All right.
Sophia people have the government to go in power. We need roads and streets in Sophia, friend.
All
I'm begging for that.
Thank you,
Our
caller.
rainfall is enough water.
Thank you very much, caller.
Okay.
That's a fair comment and a very fair criticism, and I'm happy that the caller raised it because, Mr. Deputy Mayor, you're in a position to respond.
Yes, Malika, let's start with that. I'm a resident also who lives in Sophia, and if you see the road in front of my house, you'll understand that I share the sentiments of the caller. But I also have the understanding that our government is only in power for 3 years to date, and the situation in Sophia in relation to the roads and the drainage were existing for over 2 decades. And on going into office, the APNU AFC government achieved something that hasn't or seemed to be unachievable for 2 decades. The main roads in the Sophia areas were done, all of the main arteries. And I do know that conversations are on the way for the interlocking streets to also be done. But as you've said, these things can't be done overnight, and they can't be done all together. Because when you look nationally and even locally, there are many communities who share the same sentiments, and the amount of money that it will cost for us to do all the roads in all of these communities, I don't think the government will be the government at the end of the day. If they do decide to do that. But I do understand the sentiments of the caller, and I must say to him that we are working on it, even at the local level. There is the Ministry of Housing right now. They're looking at an IDB loan to facilitate certain works within the Sophia lining area, and most of those works include roads. So even though we may be in this situation, we have still come a far way as it relates to the road networks within the community of Sophia. And this has all been done under 3 years.
I'm happy that you mentioned that, because at the end of the day, we're dealing with different personalities, and all of us get emotional and we complain about things. And just to go on the side of the people who will say to you, man, y'all had 3 years already, we all doing. Granted, we take that it's a fact. You can't do everything in all the communities at one time, and sometimes
Correct.
people need to be patient. But how do you deal with people who, and I know you've been doing house-to-house exercises also, how are you dealing with people who are saying, man, look, it's 3 years now, we complain, we give y'all a chance, now y'all coming back. And then there are people who will also say to you, because I know of residents in East Ramveld, people who will also say to you, look, we only see y'all at voting time, at election time, because I like to tell people Guyana is going to be in election season for a very long time, because November we're talking local government elections. Yes, we know we're not constitutionally due for regional and general elections until 2020, but we cannot wait until then to start
Correct.
working. And next year we're a few months away from 2019. So how are you, and I would like to also hear this from you, Ubraj, how are you going to deal with people who are going to say to you, man, y'all had 5 years, or right now y'all had 3 years, we still haven't seen what we want to see. How are you going to deal with that?
I've had those comments being thrown at me within the streets of Sophia while campaigning, and my response is simple. When you sit and you explain to people where their government is and what their government is going to do for them and what their government has been doing for them. And most of the persons, if I shouldn't say all of them, then understand and listen. As a resident and as a citizen, I need to be patient with the leaders that I've elected. It comes back to your ability to be patient, because if you have at the back of your mind, because the government changes, all of these things will be fixed immediately. That is not a fair reality to judge a government by. So most times I say to them, listen, it is up to you now to trust the persons and to trust your leaders that you have elected. We hear your concerns and we know your concerns, and those concerns will be addressed. The question is now, when and how fast they can be. And if you keep on your leaders' shoulders or your leaders' backs, to come in and see the roads, come in and see how we're progressing. That, like you rightfully said, gives them the opportunity to hold their leaders accountable. So I vibe that many persons should go along those means as holding their leaders accountable and teaching them that, listen, we've placed you there, we understand it. And I've had persons tell me, we understand that you can't fix the mess in 3 years that was there for 20 years. But at the end of the day, it needs to be fixed. Okay. And I respect comments as such.
All right, before I get Ubraj to jump in, we'll take this call. Caller, are you there?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
The education system is dealing with a monster.
Pardon?
The education system is dealing with a monster.
I'm almost afraid to ask you what is the monster, even though we're dealing with local government.
Plagiarism is rampant in the school system.
All right.
Gone are the days when regurgitation was the order of the day. These days, and sorry, when I say these days, I don't mean for the last 3 years. We're talking about maybe more than 2 decades or so.
Okay.
These days, children are given a textbook from which they have to copy. They are copying whatever is written in the textbook as notes, and this is happening even at the primary school level.
All right, ma'am. I'll tell you what. It sounds like an issue for mainly the Ministry of Education. I'm sorry, I had to take that caller off. Of course, if you're still watching, it sounds like an issue where the Education Ministry has to address. Education Month would have been in September. I'm going to try my best as we go along and I always try to do that, whether to get government ministers or other officials to come and talk about that. I know both gentlemen will have their personal opinions on it, but I don't want them to pronounce today because we're trying to deal with local government elections and local government issues. So we're going to return to the phone lines and trust that we have someone with a local government issue. Caller, good day to you.
Good day, miss. I like your program.
Thank you.
But the problem is, I hear the guy say just now, you have to clean up a mess after so many years.
Okay.
I think anything the opposite way, the mess getting worse. It's not for better, it's for worse.
Really? You think you have evidence to show that it has gotten worse in 3 years?
Oh my, everybody could see it. You take a blind man to see that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Fortunately, sir, we do not agree with you. The APNU AFC government has done a wonderful job since 2015. There's so much improvement that you can see. But I understand if you're calling from a place where you probably have allegiance to the former administration, and that is okay. Somebody, I prefer a few persons, but some persons got to support them. But we understand, but I respectfully, and thank God, I disagree with you. Ubraj, I had asked Akeem a question, so now I'm going to give you an opportunity to jump in. How are you going to deal with the negatives? Especially, and we just had an example here. You're seeing the good and the positives, and people are going to say otherwise. Go ahead.
Well, like I said, that you can't please everybody. And let me take it for example. Our former president, Donald Ramatar, he spent 3 years in office. What had done? Look at this government when our government took office in 3 years. Look at the difference between that 3 years and these 3 years. Infrastructure, so much thing had done. The health facilities, everything. And local government election, I like to stretch on this. In the then government, the PPP government, there was always about interim bodies at the NDCs even at the city hall, de facto town clerk and all these things, that was totally corruption. But we have to be thankful for His Excellency bring back local government elections so the people of those areas can make decision in their community.